Hello, welcome to episode number 2 of the podcast. Thank you for joining us. Today we got Parker, Dimitri, Justin, Maurice, and myself. And let's dive straight into it.
Yes, unpronounced. Dive. Let's go.
Okay, so the Redskins name change.
It's not happening.
It's been 87 years as the Washington Redskins. It is official, Dimitri. They have decided to change their name. So it is 100% official.
So what are your guys' reactions?
I feel like it's a publicity stunt more than anything. I don't think, there's actual any caring for the feelings of Native Americans one way or the other. But I don't really. People think it's a big deal. So what? They changed the name.
Maurice, we can't hear you.
Teams change places, change names all the time.
I think it could be a good, team didn't do too well last year. Could be, a good reset for them.
You think they should rename the Redskins after Chase Young, just in preparation?
No, I think they have Dwayne Haskins. Maybe they trust him a little bit more, give him more this year. Just got Chase Young, who is completely a beast. Your team's starting to get there. I think in a couple years it might get there, depending on the moves they make. So, who knows? Maybe it's a good thing, good new beginning.
Maybe the Browns should do the same thing.
The Browns need more than a name. They need to move towns, cities, states.
Even if the Browns did move, wherever they go, the place is gonna hate them unless it's like Mexico or London or something. It's the only way they'll get publicity.
Canada.
If they go,
No, I mean,
somewhere.
Who doesn't hate OBJ? Their team is essentially just superstars. So,
but somehow they still screw up.
Yeah, that's on coaching, and I'd say Baker, but that's another thing. Anyways,
What do you guys
get to this later? I think we'll get to this later when we argue about Austin Hooper.
Okay.
Anyways, new name possibilities. I'll go first because I was very proud to come up with this one. All right, so I was never a huge fan of just Washington because, I'll be honest, when I first heard it, I thought they were in Washington, the state, not Washington, D.C. So I think they should change it to D.C. And I know there's a couple teams in Washington, D.C. that have that just start with D.C. And then for their mascot, I would have to go with the D.C. Founders. Bro, if you put that together, it just sounds so complete.
I mean,
Washington, Red Horns, presidents, those are all lame. DC Founders, that's you got to pay tribute to the Founders.
What's their mascot?
Wait, Steven. Before you say anything further, does DC Founders not sound slightly like DC Defenders, as in the XFL team?
I would
No.
Personally, I think they should just stick with the name change that they were planning a while ago, which is the Red Tails. I mean,
that's just
everything. It's not offensive.
it is.
No, it's not. It's about the fighter group from World War II. The first African American, what's it called? Air Force team.
I think the Washington Warriors would be a good.
Nah, that's
I really think they need to get away from anything even potentially racist sounding.
They should just make it after an animal, honestly.
But that's the whole NFL.
Yeah,
Need something new.
Come on, Justin, we're Steelers fans. How can you say it's
Yeah, and there's the Patriots.
Brown.
No, I think
a lot of teams.
I think
The Patriots are people. The Patriots are people, and people are
You cut off there.
humans, and humans are animals.
Well, actually,
The thing is
Homo
not
sapiens
human or
are
animals.
Goddamn, Wi-Fi's terrible.
You know what? At the end of the day, it's Dan Snyder's decision, and as we know, Dan Snyder's not very smart. So we're gonna find out the horrible name very soon.
I bet he switches it to the Washington Braves.
Yeah. Or the Indians. We'll see.
Okay, so let's move on to the next slide then.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, some interesting information. So the first is Devonta Freeman. Is he done in the NFL after being dropped by his agent? He's 28, I think.
Is he a free agent right now, or
He's a free agent, but that doesn't have an agent.
Come on. He was on a Super Bowl almost winning team.
Lead 20. He lost the biggest lead ever.
That wasn't his fault. Come on. It was
Dimitri,
the Patriots.
bench warmers were also on that team.
What?
Like, seriously.
There were also bench warmers on that Falcons team.
Shut up.
what? There's,
No, here's
there's
what I'm
bench warmers
saying.
on every team. What
Exactly,
do you
Z. You can't be saying that as why someone should pick him up just because he was on a Super Bowl team.
No,
He wasn't the
but
bench
he
warmer,
wasn't just on a team. He was a leading star on that team.
Yeah, he was.
Why didn't he score after the second half?
Julio
of the
Jones
game?
is the leading star on that team.
I have 2 words for you. Why you want to have an explanation for that? For why he screwed the pooch. And the 2 words are Bill Belichick. That's not
Okay.
the talking.
Okay, so if Bill Belichick stopped their run game, they should have been able to pass to Julio Jones for the rest of the game. You can't do both. You have to be able to stop.
Well, that's
one.
not Matt Ryan. Him.
That's
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm not so sure Devonta will come back to the NFL. Not because it's like problematic and because he's not that good of a running back, just because he was already borderline NFL material or starting running back material, and going into like his 29-year-old season, that just doesn't bode well for any running back. So to take on someone like him at an older age is kind of like a big risk. It's not like he's Frank Gore or someone like that that's just going to run forever. So I think the bigger risk with him is his age.
Yeah, also his injury too, right? He's
very injury prone.
That's understandable, but I could totally see a team. I don't know. I mean, we were talking about the Redskins earlier, or maybe the Chiefs, who just want to pick him up as like a backup running back.
The Redskins wouldn't take him. Darius Squeeze is kind of good.
Yeah.
If any team takes him, it's going to probably be the Rams, to be honest. They don't have a set running back.
They need it
I
after
actually heard some rumors about the 49ers after they traded, like, Matt Breida's gone, and
Still have Raheem Mostert as well as Ben Coleman.
they both were injured for, like, the past 2 seasons, and I'm pretty sure Devonta Freeman has, like, some connection with their coach, Kyle Shanahan. I think
Also, guys, big place we haven't considered, the Dolphins. I mean, right now, the best they've got is Jordan Howard. I feel like that.
and Matt Breida.
Dolphins.
Who is that
Dolphins
guy?
traded for Matt Breida, dude. Or they picked him up in free agency. I
Yeah.
remember.
Either way, I totally think Devonta Freeman could kick Matt Breida's ass.
Well, Devonta Freeman's future is a mystery, so let's go to Baker Mayfield. Was his freshman year just a fluke, or is he actually good?
That was not his freshman year. That was his sophomore year, right?
His freshman year he was good. His sophomore year he did bad.
But did they make the playoffs the freshman year?
Well, no, but
No, Steven, they went from 0-16 to 7-9-1. I think that's a pretty good season. Not 7-9-1. 7-8-1. 7-8-1.
So I think that's considered a good year. But then last year he kind of shit the bed. So is he gonna bounce back? Was his freshman year just all hype? What's gonna happen here?
Personally, I think it's somewhere in between. I think it's kind of with the weapons he has, anyone can put up subpar average numbers and do well with OBJ, Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, David Njoku, even their running back Nick Chubb.
And Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt.
No, Kareem Hunt's he left, dude.
He's still on the Browns.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just like I think it's somewhere in between. I think last year was a horrible year for him. I think the freshman year resembles more of the player who he's gonna be. But I think for the future, it's gonna be somewhere in between. I don't see him having a better season than his freshman year for a little bit, but I don't see him having a season anywhere close to what it was last year.
Knowing the Browns, are they gonna give him the time to do that? Because they've gone through quarterbacks. They've gone through quarterbacks like Johnny Manziel. They tried Terrell Pryor. They tried Deshaun Kaiser.
The way I see it is this year is kind of like a prove it year for Baker. Like, if he does well, gets a winning record, then sign a big contract, blah blah blah. Because in the past, you can Baker. Obviously the weapons are there. Browns definitely a top 3 offense, just weapon wise. But something that their team has been lacking is a good organization and coaching staff. Like Hugh Jackson, I forgot who the coach was last year, but they've been through so many coaching switches that you gotta take that into consideration when judging the Browns. And I think they have a new coach this year. I forgot his name, Kevin Stefanski or something like that. But if that will be a third coach that Baker Mayfield is playing under, and if he can't do well or at least have a winning record this year, then I think it's the time the Browns just move on from him. I mean, you have a lot of star quarterbacks coming up on this year's draft, so Baker Mayfield, if he doesn't do well, I can confidently say he is a bust.
I actually agree with that, but here's something you guys aren't really considering. His breakout season, the one that may or may not be a fluke, I don't really think that's that impressive. He literally had the least pressure of any quarterback ever. He couldn't possibly have done any worse than the year before.
The least pressure? You're the first overall pick out of the draft.
They
That's
went
pressure.
0-16. You can't do worse
They
than
didn't
that.
go 0-16. They went 7-8-1.
No, the year before him. Not...
Okay, hold on. Time out for a second. He had almost 3,700 yards, 27 touchdowns, 14 picks, and 93.7% passer rating as a rookie in the NFL. So
yeah, he set the rookie NFL touchdown
record.
After not even starting for the first few games. I think it was Tyrod Taylor starting them.
Yeah, so you can't say that's a bad year, especially as a rookie coming.
It was not a bad year, but I'm just saying, he had the weapons and he had no pressure, literally no pressure.
The bar was pretty low.
But also, as soon as he had,
Okay.
How is the bar low for the number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, I have to disagree. You're the number 1 overall pick on an 0-16 team. Then every single person in Ohio that's not a Bengals fan, because let's face it, no one roots for the Bengals.
Fair point.
Is counting on you to get them, to try to bring them to 8-8, especially after they got a lot of other players like Njoku. They have Myles Garrett, who is still young, who they're hoping is going to blow up. They drafted Denzel Ward that same year. They got a lot of guys that were expecting him to come up, and when you're the first overall pick in that draft of this rising team, there's a lot of pressure on you. And he he performed well.
No, he did the first well. But I think you're getting this the wrong way. It's not like all their hopes were on him. They needed him to do better, but he had no... if he messed up, there was nothing. It's not like the Browns would do anything to him. There's in almost any other situation I can think of, if a quarterback player messes up enough, he will be replaced. Because, they have a history of most
Jared Goff.
It's because the Browns have been looking for a franchise quarterback for 16 years. What do you want from them? There's pressure on Baker Mayfield just from that, because he's like, oh, if I don't do well, I'm going to lose my job like that, because Browns aren't afraid to go to the next one.
But after an 0-16 year, they're definitely afraid they can't just get rid of their first round pick. I mean, come on. If your team had just lost probably the worst in recent NFL history, your team is basically a joke in the entire NFL. You're not getting rid of your first round quarterback. That's ridiculous. Come on.
Yes, but if they see because I believe the contract year is next year, right? His fourth year. He has 4 years. So if they go and he doesn't do well next year, and they say he can probably get a first round pick or a second round pick for this guy, and then bring in a quarterback, they're gonna do that.
No. Next year is different. We're not talking about whether I genuinely don't think he's going to be that great. But we're talking year after he just gets signed, freshman quarterback. They have no other options but him then. And you saw what happened after he had this half decent year, 7-9-1. Yeah, I mean he had a crappy year last year, and because not only did he have more weapons, which should mean that he should have a better year, but he actually did worse because he had more pressure, because he was expected to do well, and so he flaked.
Would the Browns be willing to do something like bringing Colin Kaepernick?
No.
Is Colin Kaepernick going to come back? So where? And is he worth it at 30 years old?
There's way too many rich white people in the NFL for Colin Kaepernick to ever come back. I'm sorry, but while I agree with him entirely in his movement, I think the owners won't be willing to let it happen.
What team needs a quarterback right now?
I would say the Rams if they didn't sign a massive contract with Goff.
Parker's still in mourning after that contract.
Never know. The Patriots could pick him up if Cam Newton goes freaking who knows
Gets
what.
injured.
Yeah, maybe they go Colin Kaepernick.
I thought the Patriots had Kaepernick written all over them, especially after losing Brady.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would trust Kaepernick, to be honest. He's a very mobile quarterback and he hasn't played on the field
Couldn't the Panthers
for
the Panthers could be a good team if Teddy Bridgewater doesn't do too well.
I mean, you all know, when players don't play for a while and they come back, it's kind of just...
Le'Veon Bell.
I mean, the issue I have with Kaepernick is not, his persona, because obviously, with him comes a lot of publicity and drama, but if you look at his stats for, the 6 years that he played, he starts with a 74.4 QBR in his rookie year, which is a pretty good QBR, or in his, first season playing. And it continuously decreases to the point where his QBR in 2016 was 49.5, which is really bad.
Do you think that publicity he's getting is not worth his talent?
I mean...
He's getting publicity because he wasn't willing to stand for the flag. He's not getting publicity because he was a great quarterback who wouldn't stand. He was getting publicity just because he wouldn't stand, and that was a big deal for people.
If someone like Lamar Jackson did this next year, would you think it would be a completely different, bigger thing?
Of course, because Lamar Jackson was an MVP.
If Lamar Jackson did it, people wouldn't care as much, I don't think.
Lamar Jackson is an MVP. Colin Kaepernick never made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe that's not the best. So, trying to think of a quarterback that's good but hasn't really gotten recognition yet.
Philip Rivers?
He's a veteran.
I think there's someone who can fill this imaginary role you're thinking of. Colin Kaepernick relatively...
No, I got. What if Tua Tagovailoa comes into this and the first thing he does is try to start a movement like that?
Because he's a rookie. No, that would never.
No, that's
a first round pick.
He needs to solidify his position first, and then maybe. And if he does that, put in Fitzpatrick, and he won't.
Josh Rosen. To get him some time.
Yeah.
We spent quite a lot of time on this slide. Let's.
We have one more question.
One more.
That's what I meant.
What NFL team is the most underrated, or what NFL team will be the underdog this year?
Inner bias. Steelers. The reason I'm saying this is because it's not so much the team. It's the fact that each player individually gets underrated by everyone, and the coaching is severely underrated. Mike Tomlin is a very good coach, and no one seems to appreciate him as much as they should. If you look at the Madden ratings, TJ Watt was not above a 90 overall, I'm pretty sure. The fact that EA can allow that to happen and give Stephon Gilmore a 99 overall rating and give the runner-up to him for Defensive Player of the Year below a 90 is extremely disrespectful. Juju Smith-Schuster had a down year while being hurt. I don't think
not
think he's
having a
done.
quarterback.
Yeah, Ben Roethlisberger's completely disrespected after getting hurt for one season. I think the whole team, the whole organization gets disrespected a little too much just because everyone thought Antonio Brown was the whole team for a while, which he makes a big difference. I'm not saying that Antonio Brown wasn't a big deal. I'm just saying people are underrating that team because they had one bad season where everything that could have went wrong last year went wrong.
Not their defense.
Would you say the team is being underrated or just the offense?
Just the offense. Their defense is insane.
Because
I honestly no, but like if you think about it, their defense is still underrated because like no one appreciates Steven Nelson and Joe Hayden, who had very similar cornerback ratings to Stephon Gilmore, if not better.
And then neither of them made the Pro Bowl, even though Xavier Rhodes did.
Exactly.
But Maurice, here's the thing I don't think you're understanding. No matter how bad they play or whatever child raping accusation comes across, nobody's ever going to say the Steelers don't have a chance to win a Super Bowl. The Steelers are one of the few legacies of the NFL.
Really? Because last time I checked, everyone's saying that they're not a contender for the playoffs this year.
I'm talking in general. I'm saying that the Steelers, like the Patriots, like the Cowboys, can never really be considered underdogs because of their past successes.
I disagree.
Yeah, that's not true. Like the Patriots, you can consider the Patriots an underdog this year after just losing Tom Brady. Because look at their team. They got freaking guys that are like 38 years old trying to make plays. What do you want? You lose arguably the best quarterback in the NFL ever. It's like, what's going on here? And now they bring in someone like Cam Newton, and they have Jarrett sitting there like, maybe this team can make a run this year.
But listen, I'm gonna ask
Dimitri, who do you think is the most underrated team?
Most underrated team?
If you say the Patriots, I'm coming to your house.
No, Dimitri's a definite Arizona Cardinals believer.
No, I don't think so. So here's the thing. I definitely think the Broncos have a decent chance. I think that nobody really gives them any credit, but I think especially with Drew Lock actually coming to step up a little bit, I think they have a very, very good... I mean, if it goes well, or he could just start sucking and it doesn't. But I think either the Broncos or the Colts, either of which are underdog potentials.
I have to say to Parker real quick, the I got when I said the Cardinals are an underrated team is a little suspect, based on the fact that they have Kyler Murray, who's the #1 overall pick. They have Kenyon Drake going off. They have DeAndre Hopkins, who is the top receiver in the NFL.
Look at the division. They can't do anything in that division.
Kyler Murray is too short.
You never know.
Super Bowl.
Dude, you can't.
That's what they said about Drew Brees.
You cannot do anything in a divition with the other three teams are all in playoff contention as well.
Well, not the Rams.
You know what?
Go back. The Rams aren't even close.
If Jared Goff does something for once,
there's no running back anymore.
Well, the Rams are 500.
Dude, for how much they're paying Jared Goff, if he does as well as he's getting paid, then yes, they have a chance.
He's literally Kirk Cousins.
If he's getting paid, he'd win a Super Bowl.
I know, please win a Super Bowl.
All right, let's move on to the next slide.
No, I think I got one or two more teams here.
I have one team as well.
The Bears or the Dolphins?
I was going to say the Dolphins, 100% the Dolphins.
I wouldn't go that far.
Look at the division they're in. Their division is shit.
Hey.
The division is out. Don't even say anything. The freaking Patriots.
Dimitri, they always beat the Patriots.
The Patriots are gone this year.
They always beat the
Patriots. You got the Jets and you got the Bills. Maybe
I disagree. I think the Jets are a very strong team, severely underrated. Their defense is actually extremely good if you look down to it. Their offense is really good. Sam Darnold still needs to break out. The Bills have a top 4 defense, top 4 defense in the NFL. If I guess the Ravens and them are interchangeable. And the Patriots got Cam Newton. They're still playoff contenders.
The Dolphins beat the Patriots with Brady and without Tua.
Guys, here's the thing.
Without the running back.
No, the Dolphins are underrated. I'm just saying don't underrate the division either.
here's the thing. Because the Patriots have so consistently beat the crap out of their division for the past 20 years, everybody considers them to be crap. And now I'm not saying any of that they're not good, but I'm also not going to say
It's not true. Their record shows otherwise.
Yeah,
Look at the records.
But
You
what
can't,
I'm
the Bills had a
you
good
can't go and say because the Patriots are so good, the other teams look like shit when their records are under 500 by
well, that's because of the amount of times they played the Patriots. No,
play them twice. They could lose both of those games and then win every other one, and they would not be considered shit anymore.
all right, that's a fair point.
All right.
Okay.
And then
Let's move on.
last team. Hold on, Steven. The last team is the Bears. If Trubisky can have a good year, what about the Bears?
That's a
Or
bigger
Nick Foles,
if than if
Nick Foles.
Goff has a good year.
Yeah, I see Nick Foles starting.
Could the Bears be playoff contenders?
I just think their division
No.
is too competitive. I don't think.
No, if you look,
Nah.
they covered Khalil Mack extremely well last year. All their cornerbacks that were severely amazing, and their safeties like Eddie Jackson and Kyle Fuller really stepped back, and I don't see them coming back as strong. I think the Bears are done. They had a chance and they lost it because of Cody Parkey.
Never forget.
Okay, I think it's time to move on to
Yep.
the fantasy stuff.
Clickety click click.
This isn't fantasy. This is rookie quarterbacks. This
Tua.
rookie quarterback is going to have a breakout year.
Tua.
Wait.
Just to say, I put Jordan Love here just because I needed a fourth picture, not because I think he's gonna start over
I
Aaron
don't
Rodgers.
even think he's gonna
What
see it.
about what's his name? Jalen Hurts. Should have added him while you're at it.
I couldn't find a good picture of Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts is starting number one.
Uniform.
Definitely Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I agree.
Tua too injury prone. I think Tua will do well until he gets hurt. Inevitably, he gets hurt. Joe Burrow, big believer in Joe Burrow.
No.
If you watched his,
Joe Burrow does
college
have some
game,
weapons.
no. If you watched his college games, you see that he's NFL ready. He can make plays like that, like surprise plays if something goes off, which is extremely important in the league. Like you saw that in Lamar Jackson. If no receiver was open, he took it himself and he ran as far as he could. I think Joe Burrow's that type of quarterback that can make a surprise play out of nowhere. Tua too injury prone. Jordan Love definitely not starting. Justin Herbert is going to turn this Chargers team around.
No. I could see Tyrod Taylor starting for sure.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Tyrod Taylor's the most standing. It's just
What could Chargers do a thing like the Baltimore Ravens did, where they had Joe Flacco start, and then they start Lamar Jackson the next year to get him into the league correctly.
it's possible
They're
if they did
Yeah.
that, they would have kept Phillip Rivers in to teach him. If they wanted to have
But
him
even
for a year,
Phillip Rivers doesn't have the same skill set as Justin Herbert. Tyrod Taylor is closer to the skill set. Tyrod Taylor's not the worst player in the world. He did make the playoffs a couple years ago, didn't he?
I mean, yeah, but I don't think that he can get credit for that.
I do think that Tyrod Taylor's a good introduction quarterback, as we saw in with the Browns. He played 2 games and Baker stepped up. And every time you got Tyrod Taylor on the team, I think rookies always follow him very well.
Actually, that's a fair point.
Justin.
Yeah.
Do you think the Dolphins might start Fitzpatrick?
Yeah.
At
I
the
can
end
see
of the
that.
season, he
don't
started
think it
doing
would-
really well. They might start him in the beginning, just see how it goes.
I think it'll depend on A, spring training, and B, I don't see Fitzpatrick as a good mentor for Tua to play for. 'Cause he hasn't had that, the best career in the world.
That's
Like,
sure.
He's too busy throwing a bunch of picks. He just throws the ball. He tries to be Patrick Mahomes and hopes if he throws the ball deep that someone will catch it, and that team doesn't have that much talent.
It's just,
to
I
do
think
that.
with the end of the season, how he started doing really well, they might just start him and see how he does for the first few games, and then put Tua in if he doesn't do well.
I could see
No.
that. Kind of off topic, but Fitzpatrick or Jameis Winston because I feel like in a way their play styles.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Which one would you rather, Fitzpatrick or Jameis Winston?
Yeah.
Jameis
I'd honestly
Winston.
go Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston.
Come on.
Okay, everyone underrates Jameis Winston. He threw 30 interceptions. He also threw 5,000 yards, 5,100 yards. You don't do that if you're not a good quarterback.
But
You do that have weapons.
Please.
he went 30 for 30. Alrighty. Yeah, he threw 30 touchdowns. He also threw 30 picks. Despite the fact that he got a crap ton of yards, he still got too many picks to be considered a good quarterback. There's a line, and he way.
Well, first of all, Jameis Winston had a problem with his eyes, which he got fixed in the offseason. He also had a not so great offensive line, which could use improving.
That's fair, but that doesn't explain.
He had O.J. Howard as his tight end, who's always been really good, but he had a very bad year last year. Didn't he get hurt?
Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Period. End of discussion.
Mike Evans gets double covered, and then he can probably.
That's why Chris Godwin had a good year, because Mike Evans was double covered, and Jameis Winston had the 5,000 yards to go to Chris Godwin. Had him like almost half of them go to Chris Godwin.
So let's go back. Looking at the Dolphins, what do you think the Dolphins are going to do with Josh Rosen? Because I feel like he's being a lot more underrated. The Cardinals had him. And he didn't do horrible, but then they said, well, I can get the number 1 overall talent in this draft, so I'm going to do that by taking Kyler Murray.
I agree with that move. I think Josh Rosen is a bust. He's in every definition of
I
bust.
think if
I don't think
to him that he might succeed, but nobody wants him or needs him enough to take that kind of risk.
I
Yeah.
think he's gotten enough playing time to show how much he's worth, to be completely honest. Like, with the Cardinals weren't really that good that year with Josh Rosen. They didn't have enough talent. They didn't have a good offensive line. Like, wasn't really put in the best opportunity. Like, look at Baker Mayfield getting thrown into the Browns. You got freaking Jarvis Landry, Odell, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. Like, where are you going wrong here? Josh Rosen just hasn't gotten that opportunity. He might even be good if he got sent to the Patriots. Maybe the Patriots say, screw this, let's...
I refuse
Josh
to Josh Rosen and Jared Stidham. I'm Jewish, even that's too many Jews on a football team.
That's not a good thing to say when you're talking on live. Hate to tell you.
Alrighty, but
Okay.
look, guys, one controversial opinion quickly. I want to know what you guys think about it. I genuinely think Joe Burrow is going to bust. I think he was a NFL level quarterback in college, which is why he did so well. But I think as soon as he joins the NFL, he's going to start screwing up.
I have to say I disagree entirely. Bengals, I think their offense is underrated, and that's like kind of surprising to say. Dalton has been abysmal.
Green, Tyler Boyd, and Joe Mixon. Like,
Tyler Eifert is still a really good tight end. Like he's not
on the team anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Dang it. They need
their O-line. It's just their O-line is
their
trash.
O-line is bad, but that's why Joe Burrow is good in Cincinnati, because like he can play well when there's pressure from the D-line. He did that in LSU.
Well, I think you can't really compare LSU to the Bengals.
An NFL,
LSU,
I mean, all I'm saying is I know, but he faced tough D lines that were able to get to him, and he was able to perform. He was able to hit passes while getting hit. He was able to scramble out of the pocket. He's able
to do that like
It was
every
still
time,
college.
every week.
And especially against NFL level D lines.
Yeah.
I think he can. I mean, it depends on the opponent. Like when they're playing the Steelers and they have that. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think the Steelers have a top D line in the NFL. And if he's got T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree coming around both the corners, he's obviously going to have some trouble getting away. But I think he can step up in some opportunities, and I think he can get the Bengals like maybe 5 wins. I don't see him as being a bust. I see him as just needing some time and needing some
getting 5
some
wins
tools.
is almost the definition of a bust. All right,
getting 5 wins on the Bengals is not a bust.
He's regarded as the the greatest thing to come to college football since I don't know ever.
How many wins did they have last year?
What?
How many wins did the Bengals have last year?
I don't know.
I think they had 4. To be honest.
No, they had
3 or
more.
4. They had the number 1 overall pick, so they couldn't have had.
I'll tell you.
They only got 2. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
So 5 wins. 5 wins is 3 more than they had last year. So I would take it if I'm the Bengals.
Yeah, but you're
trying to give up a team.
Yeah, but Baker Mayfield went up 7 wins with the Browns.
Okay, look at the talent difference, though.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield's got a lot more tools. The defense was upgraded with Myles Garrett and Denzel. They added Denzel Ward, and they added like a lot of tools to that defense. That like
the only real thing the
They added
defense
Nick
has
Chubb.
is Jesse Bates and a very, very old the defensive lineman. Oh my god. Can't think.
Who's the Bengals coach?
Bengals coach is Zach Taylor.
Is he good?
No.
Okay, so
good. They wouldn't have gone 2 and
There's no discussion, all right? Anybody who keeps the red-headed devil for that long cannot be considered a good coach.
That's
You
a
mean Andy Dalton?
Yes, that's his other name.
You mean his real name?
guys, I think we have to move on to the next
Yeah, let's
slide.
move on.
one last thing before we change slides. Is there a chance Jordan Love will get playing time if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt?
Oh, of
What are
course.
the
Yeah,
chances Aaron-
that's why they got
what are
him.
the Yes, but I'm saying, what are the chances he gets hurt this year?
I mean,
Then
pretty high.
Jordan Love starts
I mean,
most of this.
if you look at the Packers team, that team is full of injury-prone players. Devonta Adams, Aaron Rodgers, like there's gonna be players on that team that get hurt. Like, I mean, that's why they needed to draft a quarterback in the first round. I don't agree with the move that they made, but it was kind of smart in the sense that they are expecting injuries across that team, and they needed to draft a big role in the first round.
and you also got to consider, I mean, that this is basically what happened between Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. I mean, Brett Favre was considered a great quarterback, and then Aaron Rodgers came for a game and completely took the team over. It's very, I mean, I wouldn't say it's likely, but it's definitely possible for the same thing to happen with Jordan Love.
The exact same thing is going to happen, I think.
All right.
Well, history does seem to repeat itself. So, as history does repeat, let's move on to the next slide.
That was a terrible segue.
I
Jesus.
agree.
Know what? You tried something next time. Dimitri, give us your shitty rankings because Hunter Henry is not a sleeper.
Gronk
All
is
right.
not 3rd.
Hey, alrighty. And I resent. Let me explain myself. You want to call him shitty after? You're welcome.
Yeah, Patriots and Chargers fan. Loser.
Hey,
Let him go through the rankings. Let him go through the rankings, and then we can judge.
attempt to make fun of my brilliance later. Now, George Kittle, as much as I hate to say it, he's the new Gronk. He's tough, he's strong, he's fast.
Do not compare George Kittle to Gronk because Gronk would not be able to block an O lineman without getting his ACL torn.
Gronk was completely destroyed by, age. A young Gronk then, not a current Gronk. But here's the
Young
thing.
Gronk also got hurt.
Especially since Jimmy G actually isn't that good of a quarterback, I think the fact that he's likely to get less points than Travis Kelce in a fantasy setting. But
All right, Dimitri, I just have to interrupt and ask, what makes Jimmy G a bad quarterback and Tom Brady a good quarterback? Because Jimmy G did go to a Super Bowl just like Tom Brady by dumping the ball off to his running backs.
Listen, friend, Tom Brady went
By dumping the ball off to his running backs and constantly feeding the tight end. He's literally the exact thing as Tom Brady. The only difference is Tom Brady didn't have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill on the other side of the ball.
It's funny how similar the two teams are after Tom Brady did
I was about to say it's
Jimmy Garoppolo. Like
between the 49ers now and the Patriots in, I don't know, 2003 or so. But listen, you can say what you want, but George Kittle is a fantastic tight end, and he's nowhere near reaching his, the end of his talent. Travis Kelce, the only I think I like what Maurice did a little later with his whole 1A, 1B. They're very comparable. But I think if you switch which quarterbacks they were under, George Kittle would, boom, he would have a fantastic year.
But we ranked fantasy and quarterbacks matter in fantasy.
That's but I still believe that George Kittle is good enough to pull ahead.
There are too many weapons on the Chiefs for Travis Kelce to be considered the best tight end.
That's why I only put him number 2 here, not number 1. Now Gronk, this was challenging for me because 5-10 years ago I would love to say Gronk is number 1. Unfortunately, he's no longer number 1 and he's sort of half dead, especially after.
You still put him at number 3.
All right, okay, no, but Dimitri, listen, I need to just pick a bone real quick because you're gonna tell me that Kelce is not better than Kittle because he has too many weapons, which is basically only Tyreek Hill who's the better receiver on the team. But then you have an old Gronk who has a pretty good running back rotation.
No,
and has Godwin, and it's not like they have an elite running back, but they have depth, and they're all decent running backs. And they have Godwin and Evans, who right now are both better than Gronk. So you cannot say that Kelce is worse than Kittle because he has one weapon better than him, who's most likely going to get hurt. And you're going to tell me that Gronk is
Wait up. Let me be very clear. Pure talent speaking, Kittle's better than Kelce.
But this is fantasy.
No, I know that. But fantasy speaking, he loses more advantages. His weapons are split up between the other Chiefs receivers. He no longer
should not be third if you're talking fantasy because there are too many weapons on that team. The running back's not even that bad. Travis Kelce should be higher only because there's not as many weapons on the Chiefs as there is on the Buccaneers at this point in time.
And Dimitri, do not tell me that Tom Brady right now is as good as Patrick Mahomes because he's just not.
We have not seen in a little while what Gronk and you guys have probably forgotten because it's been a little while since we've seen them in their glory. But Gronk and Brady together is a ridiculous combination.
Gronk and Brady without Chris Godwin and Mike Evans on the sides.
Not only
Brady with Julian Edelman and freaking Danny Amendola.
Hey, not only do they have 10 years or so of chemistry between the two of them, much more than Brady has with any of the other receivers on Tampa Bay.
That's not true. He has just as much chemistry with Edelman.
You have no idea how Gronk will do. The only reason why he left is because he got injured too often. Not because he was bad, not because he lost talent. It's because he got injured too often.
Oh, he left the league because he wanted to try and become a movie star or something and try to do well in TV shows. Which
unlike other players that do that, he didn't lose talent. He's still Gronk. He's still great.
Dimitri, I just have to ask. Dimitri, I have to ask.
Yeah.
But, you say that Tom Brady and Gronk's chemistry was amazing compared to the other receivers on that team. Edelman and Brady played longer together than Gronk and Brady.
I'm aware. What's your point?
I don't think you are aware because you just said Tom Brady has more chemistry than Gronk than anyone else on that team.
On Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Okay, well, number 4 is Zach Ertz. Let's talk about that.
Sure. We can discuss that.
Opinion, Zach Ertz isn't going to get enough isn't going to get enough targets because something's going to happen to Carson Wentz, or he's just going to go to Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah, something's going to happen to Carson Wentz, and God forbid Jalen Hurts has to come in. It's not like he's not
getting something.
Hurts is not going to throw the ball enough to Zach Ertz as much as he will to Alshon Jeffrey.
No.
Nelson Aguilar.
Rookies always throw
he's going to want to throw to Alshon Jeffrey or Nelson Aguilar. They're great. They're so good.
Okay, if you want, let's compare Jalen Hurts to Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield did not have a really good tight end his rookie year. David Njoku is not the best tight end in the world. No. What do you want?
But no, listen. You can say what you want about Zach Ertz. He's a good tight end. Period.
He is a good tight end. I agree.
Talent-wise, he's good.
Why he's gifted. I don't think fantasy-wise he's gifted. I hate to tell you.
But unlike wide receivers, which is basically 50-50 with the quarterback, tight ends is different. Tight ends, their talent matters much more than the quarterback they're stuck with.
Tight
I
end.
have to say, Justin, I completely disagree with the fact that you say Zach Ertz is not a fantasy tight end, especially because we see that he is a shorter tight end, and his thing is that he's a very good receiver and a deep blocker. Doesn't really do much with the O line. I think he's the definition of a fantasy tight end like Kelce, where they're basically receivers, just a bit bigger. So I don't know how you could say that Ertz is not a fantasy tight end.
Because if you look like, for example, when you talk about receiver fantasy, you're looking at them getting 30 or 40 points, while tight ends, what are they going to get? Maybe like 10 to 15 points?
I mean, I don't know what you would expect more from Zach Ertz. He was putting up like 14, 15 fantasy points a game, which was like 4th or 5th last year. And the year before that, he was putting up like 20.
That wasn't all year compared to someone like
2 years ago, Zach Ertz was like the Kittle and Kelce controversy.
That's 2 years ago, not last year. It's 2 years.
Yeah, and last year's wide receiver, the whole team took a step back. Like Wentz was an MVP candidate, and Wentz was an MVP. Zach Ertz is still a good quarterback. Wentz plays better. He's top 5. He's probably even top 3 if Wentz plays better.
Listen, guys. And long story short, Zach Ertz has a good deal going against him, but I also think he has the talent to rise above whatever crap he has to go through with the diminished Eagles. All right. Now, number 5, and let me finish my freaking list before you guys get all yelly again, is Mark Andrews. Now, I don't actually like Mark Andrews that much. I don't think he's that great of a talent. However, Lamar Jackson is a fantastic talent. He's a fantastic quarterback, and they really don't have any other consistent receivers on that team. I mean, Marquise Brown, sure, but there's no one else consistent. That's why he had such a good year last year. That's why, but I think his glory, his greatness is very, very dependent on Lamar Jackson. Alrighty?
All right, your fantasy.
Your sleeper, let's go.
Now, sleeper, I know you guys don't like it, but I definitely think a 76 can be a sleeper. I think...
Not for tight ends.
Yes, for
tight ends.
Especially with Justin Herbert. Especially Justin Herbert as a new quarterback, I think that he's going to blow up. I think that he was decent with a bad quarterback. Or not a bad quarterback, but with an old, very... very used to the same kind of crap quarterback. I think with a new young quarterback... I think he's going to have a great year. I think he's easily going to go. He easily should go 3rd pick, 4th pick.
All right, that's where I have to disagree.
All right.
The thing about Phillip Rivers is he targets tight ends. That's why Hunter Henry has had this production for the past couple of years. Not to mention that Hunter Henry is also very injury prone. So I'm not sure taking a big risk.
I would say very injury prone.
I think Hunter Henry would have been a good sleeper pick last year. After what the numbers he put up when he came back from injury last year, he was like way too good to be considered a sleeper. I think everyone's gonna aim to get Hunter Henry as like in the first 7 rounds at least. So I think he's a good pick to put in like a top 7 tight end ranking. I think he's better than Mark Andrews, fantasy tight end, like just in general. So I don't disagree with your pick at all. I just definitely
a little too high.
What?
But no,
I think you're sleeping on Phillip Rivers and their chemistry. I think you're putting Hunter Henry in your sleeper for the wrong reason. You're saying because he's getting a new quarterback and all. I think he was fine with Rivers, and I think he'll be fine with the next quarterback. I don't think he's going to change much, but no change is good when he performed as well as he did.
Alrighty, I'll take it.
Okay,
All right.
I'm going to the next slide.
Alrighty.
Oh, this is me. So, I put George Kittle 1 because there are not enough weapons on the freaking 49ers.
There are not enough weapons on the
He just
49ers.
Did he just laugh?
There's not enough weapons. He was probably going to say there's not enough weapons for the 49ers for him to not be the number one target. So,
I guess
definitely.
He just go. Never mind, he's here.
Okay.
Is he back?
You're here. He's back.
Okay, I'm back.
Kittle that you rage quit?
No, I just lost connection for a second. That is my apologies, people. Okay, George Kittle 1. There are not enough weapons on the freaking 49ers that are gonna overcome George Kittle. There's no Samuel, good, yeah, but no Jimmy Garoppolo. If he's throwing the ball, it's a 90% chance going to George Kittle. Travis Kelce, you're looking at Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball to Tyreek Hill. Sammy Watkins is not the best receiver, but if Tyreek Hill is getting covered and Travis Kelce's getting covered, then he'll go to Sammy Watkins. And now they have Clyde Edwards-Helaire as well as Damian Williams in the backfield, which I feel like would be a good duo. I put Mark Andrews third because you have Lamar Jackson, who's a good quarterback, who, if he sees Mark Andrews open, like last year, Mark Andrews was doing really well in fantasy. I feel he's going to do better this year because he had a good year, and for him, it looks like the only way to go was up. Gronk, I put fourth because A, he's old, B, he took a year off, and C, there are too many weapons to have him higher. And if anything, the only place he could probably go is lower. He's just overrated at this point. He's just completely overrated. And then I have Darren Waller at 5 because I think he'll have a breakout season this year in the sense that Derek Carr doesn't have a lot to go to, and he had a really good season last year. So that's my opinion on Darren Waller. So before I go to sleeper,
Before you go to sleeper, quick comment. First of all, you forget that didn't the Raiders get the almost John Rossian fast?
They got
Henry Ruggs.
They got Henry Ruggs, but how much are they going to use Henry? Because Derek Carr is not the best quarterback. He's not that deep ball thrower because Henry Ruggs is a streak.
Yeah, but Marcus Mariota throw a decent deep ball.
But Marcus Mariota is not going to start over Derek Carr.
You will if he does slightly better than the crap he did last year, but that's beside the point. I mean, come on. Do you really think Darren Waller is better than Zach Ertz, for example?
I'll tell you why.
To be honest,
here's the thing. I have to say, Darren Waller is. I think him and Zach Ertz are very similar because if, like what I said before, Zach Ertz is a very reception heavy tight end, and Darren Waller started out as a wide receiver. So they're very interchangeable. Based on last year, I think Darren Waller had a slightly better season. Or he did have a better season based on stats and stuff. So I don't disagree with putting Darren Waller there, and I think he's underrated for that fact because he was a wide receiver and last year was his first major tight end year and he performed well. So I don't know if you can say anything about Darren Waller that wouldn't make him top 5 fantasy. Overall, don't know if he's a top 5 tight end, but fantasy, I think he definitely is.
And about the Zach Ertz, first off, I wasn't even thinking about Zach Ertz when I was doing this. And to go against it, I don't see Zach Ertz having a great year this year. I think he's a bit overrated at this point in my complete opinion. I think he's going to have a down year this year, or he's just not going to do too well. Because I'm pretty sure he's getting old, right? How old is Zach Ertz?
He's 28, I think.
Zach Ertz, I think he's around 28. I think you're right, Dimitri.
He's 29.
Here's my problem with all this.
Hold on. He's 29 and he's going to be 30 November 10th.
Yeah, but tight ends age well. I don't think age really matters for tight ends. If you're gonna put Gronk at 4, you can't say age really matters for Ertz.
I only put Gronk at 4 because he has Tom Brady throwing to him. To be completely honest, that's the only reason.
Currently, I'd take Carson Wentz over a 43-year-old Tom Brady.
Let's put against better judgment. The chemistry between Gronk and Brady is a lot better than Carson Wentz and Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would, as much as I'd love to agree with you, they did kind of beat us in a Super Bowl, so that's that's a little bit.
No. Nick Foles and Zach Ertz beat you in the Super Bowl, not Carson
Don't
Wentz.
say that
Very
name
careful.
here. So you don't say the name of the.
All right, let's talk about the sleeper, which I love.
Eric Ebron, 195. He has Big Ben throwing to him, who always loves to go to his tight end. You got Juju, Deontay Johnson, and James Washington as your receivers. He's a big guy.
Chase Claypool too.
And Chase Clay, he was. I'm sorry, Chase Claypool as well. You got Eric Ebron. As long as he can keep the drops down this year, there's nowhere to go but up. And 2 years ago, he did really well. So I think he'll have another one of those years.
Is Vance McDonald still on the team?
Vance McDonald's still on the team, but he's not better than Eric Ebron.
Well,
He's Mr. Stiff Arm, but
there's no certain that Eric Ebron will be starting this year. So
I think Eric Ebron's starting. Maurice, Eric Ebron's starting. No,
Yeah, he is.
it's like.
I mean, first of all, if he's not starting, Vance McDonald's going to get hurt eventually, so he will be starting.
True.
But, overall, he's just a better talent than Vance
Even
McDonald.
then, the Steelers like to run multiple tight end packages because they like to run the ball. Right?
Yeah,
and if they can go
they
and
lost the
play
tight end last
action,
year, and they traded for one. They traded a 5th round pick for one right away.
so I see Eric Ebron having a great year, and I'm also very happy he's on the Steelers because he's one of my favorite tight ends. So.
did he get injured last year?
Don't remember. I just don't think he was targeted a lot last year.
No, especially
He was.
you also have to keep in mind he had a down year because he lost Andrew Luck right before
Yeah,
the
that's true.
started.
That's gotta hurt. God, I miss Andrew Luck.
I think everyone
All right.
knows Andrew Luck.
Next slide.
Move on.
Next slide, so y'all can hate on me. I just
You
want to
did
say.
not put work, Andrews. You're just dumb.
I just want to say before you all yell at me, I did not know this when I wrote this, but the rankings for receiving yards a game in tight ends go Travis Kelce 1, George Kittle 2, Darren Waller 3, Zach Ertz 4, and Austin Hooper 5. So y'all can shut the f up. Zach
Okay,
Ertz.
Do you want to start
And then-
before you start explaining yourself, or do you want to have a shot?
Now listen, Travis Kelce is the best fantasy tight end in my opinion, no question. He had 12 more receptions than George Kittle, and you're talking about how George Kittle's the #1 weapon. You have Patrick Mahomes going down the field as fast as he does. That leads to more possessions, which also means to more targets. He gets more targets a game than George Kittle, so he's ultimately getting more receptions. They got the same amount of touchdowns. The George Kittle, though, is a better tight end talent-wise. He's faster, he's more agile, and he's a better blocker. But receiving-wise, just like in general, catching the ball more times, and based on just stats and numbers, Travis Kelce's a bit better. That's why he's #1 fantasy, and I definitely had to put George Kittle in that #1 spot with 1B because he's #1 talent. So those two are interchangeable for me. Yeah.
Bryce, one quick thing. Travis Kelce had so many receptions because Chiefs didn't really go with the run game, especially early in the year. They were very pass heavy. So now with Clyde Edwards-Helaire,
that's not going to change though. So you're proving my point.
I don't know, but with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Damian Williams, who is doing a lot better at the end of the season after they trust him a little bit more, they may go with the run more this year than they did last year.
All right,
Because the teams are going to expect the pass.
I just have to say I disagree with that for one thing. Coaches don't really change their game plan. They'll change their playbook, but not their game plan. And I don't think that their playbook would change or their game plan would change if they won a Super Bowl. Had they lost in early in the playoffs, sure, I might put Kelce at 2 and say they're going to change it up a little bit. But they won the Super Bowl, so they have no reason to change their play style. So that means that they're going to run a pass-heavy offense more, even if Damian Williams was good.
They're gonna run it until other teams find a way to stop it.
No, they're gonna pass it until other teams find a way to stop it because no one stopped their pass game last year and they won the Super Bowl.
I mean that they're gonna run that playbook until they can stop it, not run the ball.
All right.
I meant run it like from what you were saying.
Yeah. All right. And then Zach Ertz 3 after a down year. I still put him at 3 because y'all are saying like Zach Ertz had a bad season and stuff. He didn't put up the same numbers because Carson Wentz got hurt and everything. Jalen Hurts is a great backup. Zach Ertz has the most targets a game for a tight end, which is a very underrated stat, especially in fantasy. Because if you're getting 9 targets a game and you're getting 88 receptions a year, every one of those catches that you make is a fantasy point. And I think that Zach Ertz, if he catches his targets, he's going to put up insane numbers. So I don't see how Zach Ertz could be anything below 5, in my personal opinion, especially fantasy-wise, just because, like, he gets a lot of targets. He catches a lot of his targets. He gets a good amount of touchdowns. He got more touchdowns than both Kelce and Kittle last season. His only issue is he doesn't get much run after catch, so his yardage lacks a little bit, but he gets a lot of receptions that also makes up in points if you're playing PPR at least. These are PPR fantasy rankings. Darren Waller, again, because it's PPR, he gets a lot of targets a game. He got 90 receptions, which is more than Kittle and Ertz. His issue is he doesn't get a lot of touchdowns. He has a good run after catch because he's more of like a receiver. If he only had 3 touchdowns last year, which is a bit down. I mean, it's not horrible for a tight end.
They run the ball with Josh Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs, yeah. But so Darren Waller definitely top 5 for me because once he starts getting those touchdowns, if he got the 5 touchdowns that Kelce and Kittle got, which is only 2 more, you wouldn't be questioning why I put him in the top 5. Just trust me on that. And Austin Hooper, number 5. All right, I just have to say, y'all put Mark Andrews as top 5. I cannot hate on Mark Andrews. He was on my fantasy team last year. Austin Hooper had Julio Jones with him, so don't tell me that. Don't tell me that OBJ is the number 1 receiver on the Browns and there's Jarvis Landry. There's Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones on that Falcons team. And
Austin Hooper also had Matt Ryan throwing the ball.
Let him finish.
And Matt Ryan throwing the ball. Like, Matt Ryan's aging. Matt Ryan's good. I don't think he's going to be... He was, like, that amazing last season. He was getting... Again, it's all about targets. He only got 7.5 targets a game. If Baker targets him that much and he's catching at the rate he does, he's going to do well. Keep in mind, he didn't play the full season, and he got 75 catches. He also got 6 touchdowns, which means in, like, I think he missed, like, 3 or 4 games. He missed 3 or 4 games and got more touchdowns than Kittle and Kelce. So he's putting up big numbers in that arena.
How many touchdowns did Mark Andrews get?
Mark Andrews got 10. I have to say that.
So why isn't he up there instead of Austin Hooper?
Because he got 20 less yards a game and he got a lot less receptions. But he got 11 less receptions and played like 5 more games.
Yeah, but how many yards?
Austin Hooper is moving to a new team of the Browns, and
the
Browns. First of all, Baker Mayfield not the best. Also, David Njoku, even though he is leaving.
Baker Mayfield had a poor season. Let me finish, Steven. Baker Mayfield had a poor season because his first 2 games were really good, and Njoku got hurt. He lost his tight end. Baker targets his tight ends quite a bit, actually. Njoku in his first 2 games played really well. If Njoku gets hurt and Hooper, because Hooper's starting over Njoku, because Hooper's more of a receiving tight end, like the rest of my list, other than Kittle, because Kittle's just a beast. But Hooper will get his targets. If he gets 5 targets a game, which is still less than 7.5 or whatever, he'll put up great numbers. How do you
know he'll get his target?
Normally I'd agree with you entirely, but there's
look at Mark Andrews. You're saying Mark Andrews is gonna get all these.
Forget comparing Mark Andrews. Forget comparing Mark Andrews. He is on the Browns. Both Odell and Jarvis Landry were considered top tier receivers before they came to the Browns. As soon as they came, they started becoming shit. Now you can say that they both just
First of all, Odell has major locker room issues. Baker Mayfield had a down year. Odell was hurt for some of the season. Even though he played, he was still hurt. Jarvis Landry had a down season. What can I say? Even though he still performed relatively well.
But the common factor there is that they all came to the Browns.
But you can't say that.
Your point. Any other team, I'd agree with your point that I definitely think Austin Hooper deserved to be there. But now that he's on the Browns, I think that his potential is gone. I think that it's. I'm not a superstitious person, and I never believed in the Madden curses or anything like that. But I definitely believe the Browns are cursed. I don't think that no matter what happens, he's going to have a good year this year.
The Browns are a much run-heavier team. Tell me they're not going to run the ball with Chubb and Kareem Hunt more than they're going to throw the ball to Austin Hooper or even Odell and Jarvis Landry.
First of all, the Browns aren't that as run-heavy as you're saying.
Well, they probably will be once Baker just failed.
Well, you can't assume Baker failed because you can assume Baker is going to fail just as much as Brady failed. Because if you look at Brady, he had just the same season as Mitchell Trubisky last year.
No,
so if you're going to assume Baker's going to fail, then you have to assume that Gronk's going to fail.
No, I'm saying that since Baker failed last season, they will most likely change their offensive play style to a more run-heavy offense because they have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
They didn't play well. You're contradicting yourself.
I don't think they're going to throw it.
You guys just said that the Browns had a run-heavy offense last year, so they're going to change that if they didn't do as well as they wanted to.
I think they're not even going to throw at all, basically.
I mean,
no, they're going to throw, but I think Austin Hooper had much more potential on the Falcons than he did on the going to the Browns. Period. End discussion.
I mean, I have to say, I think Austin Hooper will take a step back. The only reason, honestly, there's 3 guys I could have put in this 5 spot. I was kind of in between him, Mark Andrews, and Evan Ingram. Severely underrated Evan Ingram, just because the Giants suck. And then Will Dissly a little bit, even though he got hurt. I think he can make a comeback. There's a lot of guys that were here. I just personally have a little bit of bias. Austin Hooper was on my fantasy team. He was position rank 1 last year. He was position rank 1 last year, and because I was keeping close attention to him, I saw that he's a good tight end. So I based on what I saw last year, I think he's top 5. So he got hurt.
Sleeper, please.
Sleeper, yeah. If you couldn't tell by the picture, there's some yellow, red, and blue in that logo, and some black and yellow. Eric Ebron. You cannot tell me that this guy is gonna not be good. He had a bad season last year because he lost his quarterback. He's dealing with some injuries, but even if he's not amazing, if his ADP is 195, I can almost guarantee he's gonna be better than that next year. Just watch the guy play. Watch the yards that he puts up. He's amazing. He was ranked 16th among tight ends last year while having a down year. I don't think that's that bad. I think he's the best sleeper. I just want to throw in a couple other sleepers. Definitely Noah Fant. Believer in Noah Fant. I think he could do really well. TJ Hawkinson coming back from injury. I think he could do really well. And definitely big sleeper, Dawson Knox. If Josh Allen hits his targets in Buffalo, I think Dawson Knox is going to be huge threat for the Bills. So,
as we're almost out of time, let's move on from here, right, guys?
There's 2 more. It's me.
Alrighty.
Let's let him finish before you start interrupting because that's
okay. So number 1, I put George Kittle because he is by far the best talent in tight ends. And after a breakout season last year, if Garoppolo keeps throwing it to him, he should only target him. If he just keeps doing that, they basically win. And with the loss of a running back, they probably won't play as heavy a run offense. So I assume he'll do really well. Number 2, Travis Kelce. I was basically flip-flopping Travis Kelce and Kittle because they're both incredibly good tight ends. those were clearly 1 and 2 by far. And I just think Kelce will do really well again with Mahomes in a pass-heavy offense. So I just don't really see anything that can happen to him unless he gets injured. Number 3, I put Mark Andrews only because Lamar Jackson loves throwing it to his tight end. You can agree, you can disagree with this because he's not one of the best tight ends in talent. But Lamar Jackson's just going to keep dumping it off to him or Ingram every single play. And I just don't see anything that can happen unless they change their play style, but I don't really see that happening.
And they don't need to.
I mean, yeah, they can't really stop it except for Derrick Henry. Okay, number 4, I put Zach Ertz. Huge talent, and even though he did have a down season, Carson Wentz is now coming back. So I think he's going to put up some really good numbers. So yeah, and then number 5, I put Gronk. Only because he's on a new team with the Bucs, with Brady, and a ton of other weapons, and they can't guard everyone. So they're going to have to dump it off to Gronk sometimes. So, yeah.
All right.
Anything before I go to my sleeper?
Understandable choices. Now, can you explain what went through your mind when you put Tyler Higbee as
Okay, it was between this and Noah Fant for me.
Hold on, I have to just say one thing. As I said before, not the biggest fan of Mark Andrews in the top 5. I think 3 was a bit of a stretch. One thing I wanted to say about Gronk, which I wanted to say earlier but I didn't, is you also have to keep in mind O.J. Howard is coming back, and he's a really good tight end. So Gronk is not going to be running every single play in that Tampa Bay offense, especially if he gets hurt, because he's injury prone. I don't think he's going to be playing every snap. That's why I left him out of my top 5.
When he's deciding between Gronk and Chris Godwin, I can see him picking Chris Godwin. When he's picking between Gronk and Mike Evans, I can see him picking Mike Evans. There's no way he's picking O.J. Howard over Gronk.
No, it's not. It's not about who he picks. It's about who's open for a pass. And I'm just saying, coaching Bruce Arians is very careful when it comes to injuries. I know that. If you just watch him, Tampa Bay is actually they don't have many injuries on that team. If you just watch them. So all I'm saying is, I feel like Bruce Arians will want to keep Gronk healthy, and he will do good when he plays. But that also means he's not going to play as many snaps per game. So Gronk's good. I'm not putting down Gronk. I'm just saying that you have to keep in mind O.J. Howard is also another extremely good tight end on that team.
Alrighty. That's fair.
Okay, can we go to my sleeper?
Yeah, stay your reasoning.
Okay. First reason. They lost Brandon Cooks. So they're losing one of their wide receiver trios. Second reason. You saw that Tyler Higbee did actually decently well during the season, which was pretty surprising for me because I didn't really see him before this season as anything good. And I just think Jared Goff is going to try and dump it off to the tight end so he doesn't throw as many picks.
I'm gonna say something very clearly, and I think most people here agree with me. Not only is Jared Goff crap, but he also has considerably better people to pass it to. Alrighty?
I mean,
I don't know about that.
No, I'm not saying
the reason
is not going to have a decent year.
They're just going to guard Cooper Kupp.
91. There's no way he's getting any better than that.
Can I just say one thing? The reason I'm not a fan of this sleeper pick is because, first of all, his ADP is 91, which I think is a perfect spot for him. And it can even be considered a bit of a stretch, in my opinion.
His ADP is a lot lower.
If you're gonna say that Brandon Cooks is not on the team anymore, you're counting that as a positive, as if he's gonna get targets more.
Yeah.
If you're taking away a receiver, the only thing that's gonna change is the amount of first downs you're gonna get, especially after losing Todd Gurley too. They're not gonna get as many first downs. They're not gonna get as many offensive opportunities, which means that he's actually probably going to get less targets. If they had lost their other tight end, sure, I would have said maybe he'll get a couple more targets. But, I don't know if losing Brandon Cooks and Todd Gurley losing Brandon Cooks is going to make Tyler Higbee get better numbers.
I think it's going to force him to get targeted more.
And no, if anything, it's going to force Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods to get targeted more. But
then it's going to force them to get guarded more as well.
Listen,
they're not going to be able to guard both of them.
Whether or not he's going to do well, he's not going to do better than 91 for a draft pick. If anything, the only direction he can realistically go is down. Alrighty? It's just not possible. It's not.
I mean, it's not that it's not possible. It's just like that.
Very, very.
I don't see him performing better than a 91 overall player. It's because it's not like Eric Ebron is like I'm biased obviously, but Eric Ebron was like the 4th best tight end 2 years ago. He lost Andrew Luck, so he went down obviously. But Eric Ebron is probably going to be better than an 195 ADP. Like, even if it's 120, that's improvement. And Tyler Higbee's not going to improve from a 91 ADP player, maximum to like an 81 ADP player.
If his ADP was a lot lower, then I would say that's a good sleeper pick.
I agree.
Not at 91. He was in the mid. If they like 150 or something like that, sure, that's a good sleeper pick, but not a 91.
Last 5 games, he got almost like really, really close to over 20 every game.
You are comparing Tyler Higbee to other wide receivers that are probably going to get more targets than him. You can't make that comparison.
Alright,
let's move on to the last one for the day. Who's up?
hopefully y'all are too exhausted to argue.
Alright. By the way, I just noticed ours aren't very different. I mean, we have a couple, but we more or less have the same. We all have the same like 7 tight ends.
Not even like 6 tight ends.
Yeah, and you guys are like arguing just by like one difference of ranking. It's like, bro.
Yeah. Like,
I like this.
No, I'm arguing because I think some people's reasonings are a bit questionable.
Alright, I'll just try to make it short and
making your sleeper the new tight end for your team.
You're telling me Eric Ebron's not a good sleeper?
I'm sorry, anyone with an ADP of 200 is a good sleeper.
Yes, but you're comparing. He was a top tight end 2 years ago. Now he has a good quarterback. Always targets the tight end. You're telling me that's not good?
All
I'm saying, Parker, is if you're gonna get a tight end who, in a down year, performed in the top half of starting tight ends last year. In a down year, he was still in the top half of tight ends ranking wise and statistically, and you're gonna draft him in like the 20th round. That's a good freaking steal.
All right,
honestly, you could probably get him from waiver wire.
Hey, Steven, do you want to go through your rankings, please?
Yeah, I was just waiting for you guys. Hopefully, I'll make this short and concise, so hopefully no interruptions in between. All right, Travis Kelce, he's been leading the league in PPR points for the past 2 years. I don't see anything changing. George Kittle, there's not much to say. Mark Andrews, besides Marquise Brown, like, he's debatably the number 1 wide receiver on the team. Same with Zach Ertz, so that's why I have them up high. Darren Waller, the Raiders have a good pass with tight end. You have Jared Cook, who did pretty well in the Raiders, and also Darren Waller, so I don't see anything changing about that. Sleeper, Mike Gesicki, he was a beast in college. His ADP is it's all right. I see if Tua starts, he can definitely have a potential boom this year, especially because besides Devonta Parker, I can't really name any other receiver on the team. So
I like the sleeper, to be honest. I think
So do I.
I think he'll do better, especially with Tua.
I agree.
Yeah, you got
Steven?
Devontae Parker, but that's about it.
But I refuse to put him on my list, if only because I can't imagine. If Miami does better than the Patriots, I may just, I don't know,
Have a hernia.
drink myself to oblivion. It's
I
not,
have to
How many
say,
times have the Dolphins beat the Patriots? I think it's like at least once every year, right?
but it's expected once a year. It's the Patriots curse. They beat us once a year, and I'm cool with that. but not at the.
Are you cool with it? Are you cool with it, Dimitri? Because last year they beat them one time and it cost them the 2 seed, which means they lost to the Titans in the first round of the playoffs. No. I don't think you'd be cool with that. And that the Dolphins are the reason you got eliminated the first round in the playoffs by Derrick Henry.
First of all, the Ravens got eliminated by Derrick Henry. Let's not be.
No, but the Ravens didn't. The Ravens didn't get eliminated by Derrick Henry because of the Dolphins. The Patriots did.
Listen, you want the truth? No, I am not. I don't accept the fact that we lose every year. It makes no freaking sense. We've won the most Super Bowls of any team ever. We are the biggest dynasty.
Steelers
also have 16. Not tell me the Patriots are the biggest dynasty in.
Yes, they are.
No.
For 20
years, I'll give you this. Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the biggest.
This is very off topic.
No, Bill Belichick is the greatest dynasty, not the Patriots.
Iron Curtain. The Patriots have dominated the NFL for the past 2 decades. And you know what? The Miami Dolphins somehow still managed to beat us once every single freaking year, and I don't get it at all.
They dominate because of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, and that's gone.
No. Do not give Tom Brady undeserved credit. The thing is with you, Dimitri, I heard the last podcast, and the one thing I have to say, you're talking about the Patriots are stepping back. I actually don't see the Patriots stepping back much at all, because honestly, those 6 Super Bowls, as much as Tom Brady did, I'm not going to put down Tom Brady because he won 6 Super Bowls. But Bill Belichick gave you those Super Bowls. Tom Brady helped execute them.
But see, here's my question: Why didn't we win any with Drew Bledsoe?
Because Tom Brady's obviously better than Drew Bledsoe.
Guys, listen.
Tom Brady's a great quarterback. I'm just saying that Tom Brady was just a pawn, and Bill Belichick, I wouldn't say
that's what coaching is. That's the definition.
No, all I'm saying is don't tell me that Bill Belichick. Don't say that Tom Brady is like a dynasty, and the reason the dynasty is Bill Belichick.
The dynasty.
I guarantee you, they come second, at least second in the division.
Guys, the conversation's about Mike Gesicki, not the Patriots being a dynasty and whatnot. Okay, it's got very off topic.
This thing off to Dimitri. I'm sorry.
Alright, is this the last slide? Or do we have like a concluding?
I think this is the last slide.
This is it.
Alright, well thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for next week.
Oh yeah.
More arguments.
Woo!